the first match, in the bronze medal match for the compound women team, we have Russia versus Chinese Taipei. Russia got by this week playing against some reasonably good archers and came by to get into the final here. They beat, I just find my notes, sorry people, find my notes here, Russia. They beat Australia by 10, they beat Iran by 5, and then they lost to Korea, which we will see later this afternoon, by 7. On the other hand, on screen now we have Chen, Li and Wu from Chinese Taipei. They won the Netherlands by 9. They beat Colombia by 5 and lost to Denmark by only 1 point. So I think we can be looking forward to a very good match coming up right now in the compound women bronze medal team match. Very experienced Russian team we see there, Alexi. The Russian team would be Avdeeva, Savenkova, and Vinogradova, and they are really experienced. No loss of experience in that team. First arrow coming up.
Хороший снизу.
Very strong 10 by Vinogradova.
Just the way you want to get the match started.
Exactly, that a lot of times gives a good confidence boost to the rest of your teammates. You know, that they've got something good to follow up on. Another strong 10.
Excellent archery. Deva putting it in the last spot. Oh, excellent. Great X there.
Definitely something that China might put the pressure on Chinese Taipei to start off strong as well. But these are all experienced archers, you know, to get to this level.
I think also when you open the match like that, it sets the tone. You're very confident, but definitely you can see that Chinese Taipei is very comfortable as well.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, one thing we were talking about before with the wind, you know, not necessarily putting them off a lot, but every arrow that we've seen so far has been on the right-hand side.
Nice.
That's been really the first one that's kind of center of the target. So it may not be enough wind to push them out of the 10, but still kind of put them on that side. So it's one of those things where you have to know your equipment, know whether you have to compensate for it, and just kind of, like I said, trust your shot again too.
Oh, here we have an 8.
And again on that right hand side, so who knows if it could have been the wind that kind of threw it over there, or if it was just kind of how the shot fell.
Yeah, they must now make sure that they've got 3 arrows in each target face and not make a mistake and shoot 4 in one.
Exactly.
Russia very strong at the moment.
And you know, when you do see a team that kind of goes out of the ordinary and shoots a different order, different targets, that's kind of the coach's job as well.
That one got away from her a little bit and opened the door slightly.
She didn't like that shot either. She tried to kind of push it over with her bow hand a little bit.
Of course, when you see that happen, it's actually too late. It's just a reaction.
Exactly. Yep. Just kind of a mental thing.
That's
and a great comeback.
Yep. Very strong shooting. 57 is a good aim.
Yep. Exactly. You know, Chinese Taipei only has a 1 point to work with here. We'll see how they handle that.
Ting-Ting, both right side.
Always nervous to start your first end. You do calm down a little bit as the match progresses.
Yep, a lot of times just that first arrow even, you know, is just enough to kind of get the excitement out of the way. And
well done.
Oh, that's a good 10. I mean, they've got 30 on the left-hand target, and now it's just up to them. They can actually lead this match if this hits the 10.
Even so, there's quite a long way to go in the match. So.
Yes, early days. You can see the wind also changing direction during the, you know, aiming process.
Yeah, and that's kind of what makes it a little bit more difficult sometimes. especially in the stadium that we shot our qualification rounds in and a lot of our matches leading up to this point is, you know, in a stadium there's a lot of changes in the wind. It kind of swirls around a little bit, you know, it's not extremely consistent, you know, as we're kind of seeing here as well. And if you're at full draw, when the wind changes, you really have no warning. You kind of just have to go with it, and that's your teammate's job behind you and your coach's job behind you to say, you know, hey, change directions, aim off just a little bit, enough to keep you calm, keep you in the game and focus, and shoot the best shot you can.
So while we are talking about the qualification round, we did see specifically in the afternoon field where the recurve ladies and the compound men shot that the wind picked up a little bit and the scores were significantly lower than they were last year at the same time.
Correct.
With only 11 archers breaking the 700 mark in the compound men category, you know, and in general archers came down by 10 to 15 points from last year. It was tricky wins.
Yeah, and that could all just have to do with, you know, timing of everything. You know, if one person waited for the wind a little bit and just got that right timing where there was a break between the gusts of wind, and you know somebody else didn't necessarily get that opportunity, and it's kind of just to play your game, know what your equipment does, and see how well you can play the wind in that instance. So Chinese Taipei starting it off.
In the middle. That's the way to start the match. I think we're in for a good match here. The matchup seems to be, you know, they are evenly powered, these two archery teams.
Yeah, leading up to this point, I know their scores were fairly similar, you know, in the rest of the matches, so it'll kind of just have to see how they handle the pressure and the different venue than what we've been shooting all week as well.
And you know, for our spectators out there that don't know archery and specifically the team archery, it's all based around the timing system where you have 120 seconds to shoot the 6 arrows that the team need to shoot. So if one archer takes up the time, it eats the time away from the rest of the team.
Yeah, and a lot of times that's what you'll kind of have to discuss as a team before you're going into the team events, as who has a little bit slower of a shot, who has a faster shot, you know, so if one person kind of takes up a little more of the time, you know, who can make it up, and then it's just kind of a strategy as far as that goes. And for the people that don't know, the way that the matches work in this kind of in a finals situation is this team who ends up at a lower score will actually shoot first to give the advantage of, you know, sometimes maybe putting the pressure on the other team by if you start out with 3 really good 10s, the other team may think, oh, I have to shoot 3 10s as well, and just kind of play the game a little bit. So as we saw, Russia kind of took the lead on the first end, and Chinese Taipei was down 1 point going into the second end, and they were the ones that started out first. So
yeah, well, good recovery from Avdeeva there from a bit of a flinch she had. They came back with a strong X, and I mean that's a strong mind because she shoots the trigger on command.
Yep, and when your finger's on that, sometimes, you know, if it goes just a little bit too far, but you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that she had a bad shot or a hiccup there either. It could just be she wasn't absolutely set into place before she came up to anchor. So
when you get a situation like that, most of the time it's your brain telling you to shoot. No, wait, shoot. You know, so it's a bit of uncertainty, but she recovered very well from that. It looks like we've got a match on our hands.
Yeah, definitely some little bit of wind that we see going on here, as well as just, you know, experienced archers versus maybe a little bit less experienced archers, some that you don't see on the scene quite as much.
Yeah. Most of the shots of the Russians are drifting high, slightly high. Maybe it's just a little bit of a patience issue. Do you think the wind is affecting them slightly?
I think it can. I mean, you can definitely see the trees are kind of moving behind them a little bit, and if the wind is coming from directly behind you, yeah, it can push your arrow just enough to kind of float high a little bit. So it's hard to tell, you know, without being on the field and seeing what's exactly going on.
Yes,
But
sir.
very
good shot.
very good end. You know, even the ones that are 9s are extremely close.
Strong shots.
Yes, definitely.
Good strong shots. Lexi, also one of the subjects everybody was talking about this wind is the stabilization of the bows during windy conditions. What do you prefer to do?
Yeah, in my experience, you know, there's a lot of people that'll use wind bars, which may just be a little bit shorter of a stabilizer, so that you don't have as much area that's being affected by the wind. I personally like to add a little bit more weight on my bars. I don't necessarily change the length or anything, but add more weight so that there's more resistance. You don't move around as quickly, and you may be able to stay kind of a little bit in a smaller area on your target instead of drifting quite so much. So there's definitely multiple different techniques that you can use to deal with that.
One of the issues this week also with this discussion within the ranking round, where archers on the line wouldn't be affected by the wind as badly, but the arrows downrange got caught in a bit of a wind drift. It was a very interesting scenario when the wind came
and that's
swirling.
one thing when you're personally being blocked from the wind where you can't feel it pushing on you, your mind kind of may be tricked into thinking, oh, the wind isn't that bad, or, you know, I don't need to aim off as much, when really downrange it still is being affected that much. So you kind of have to learn, you know, watch the flags, how much they're moving to see and be able to compensate for that.
Very different scenario today on the finals field, where the archers are much more exposed to the elements than in the ranking venue.
Definitely, it's a little bit more open here. I mean, you do see a few trees here and there, but especially the arrows are out in the open for sure.
You could see I wasn't happy with that shot.
Yeah, and I think that shot was just a little bit longer than some of her previous shots, and a lot of times that can kind of take you out of the groove just enough to where your muscles are starting to get a little bit tired.
Solid.
That's a very strong shot.
Long hold there.
Yeah.
10x. Yeah.
Still a very good shot at the top of the X.
Shot.
Yeah. They seem to have a different sequence that they shoot in, 2 in one target on the left and 1 in the other target on the right, which is not what the Russian team is doing.
Correct, and that could have to do with if up to this point, you know, they shot 2 at a time. In the finals venue, you have to rotate 1 archer at a time on and off the line. You can't have 1 archer staying up there and shooting. Well, in the matches leading up to that, it can be a little bit different, where you can have 1 archer stay up on the line, shoot their 2 arrows. The next archer will get up on the line, shoot 2 arrows, and so on and so forth. And if in that case, if you shoot 2 in the left target, 2 in the right target, and then the last person may shoot 1 in each target, they're just used to shooting that target.
Yes.
And that's kind of, you know, just to keep things a little bit more consistent, so that they're not confused on which target they're supposed to be shooting.
So you can see the timer counting down on the left, 51 seconds left to make the 3 arrows. She's already on full draw, which leaves her teammates with another 45 seconds to make the other 2 shots count. Just for the viewers back home, you have to step off the line before the other archer can step on the line. There's a 1 meter waiting line behind the line, so you have to be completely over that 1 meter line before the other archer can step onto the line. And also you're not allowed to expose the tip of the arrow before your feet are planted over the shooting line. So there's a judge looking at that with a card system at the back, so there's a lot going on where your team manager needs to be looking out for that.
Needs to be watching, needs to be kind of keeping track of everything that's going on, and a lot of times, you know, that's something that can take up a lot of time if for some reason, you know, when you're crossing over archers, if they cross that line a little too quickly, the judge may pull a card, as you said, a yellow card, and then you have to start over.
Oh, that's a very good X.
Very nice shot.
Strong shooting.
you know, some of the individual matches that we'll see later, each archer has 20 seconds per arrow, but there you don't have to step on and off the line, so that, you know, it'll take up less time to do that.
So 20 seconds is not an issue as long as you don't have very windy conditions. But once the wind picks up and takes you off target, the time runs out quite quickly.
Exactly, and then you very strong target there. You know, and that can be something that kind of plays on your mental game a little bit as well. If you're thinking, oh my goodness, I only have 20 seconds. That doesn't sound like a lot, but really when you're in your shot, you can still make a very strong, solid, consistent shot in that timing system. And so archers will train specifically for that. You know, you'll train for this specific amount of time because you really don't have any other options. You have to shoot within the time, otherwise you don't get your points. So.
The Russians are in a commanding lead at the moment, 5-point lead. And I think you can see the experience are coming through. They've been in this stage, I think, a little bit more than Chinese Taipei.
Very just calm and collected.
Strong shooting on that right-hand arrow. There you can see on top of the butt a little bit of wind that's blowing around here.
Yep, see that flag kind of waving just a little bit.
165, 171. It's actually a 6-point lead. It's not a winning lead yet, but it's a commanding lead. I mean, a lot can happen.
It's definitely something where, you know, we have seen it turn around with this amount of a lead before. You know, a 6-point lead is definitely a good lead to have. It leaves you a little bit more confident, but it has happened before where a 6-point lead has been lost in the last end, and the team behind comes back for the win. So it'll just have to see.
So all Chinese Taipei can do now is to put good arrows in there and try and place some pressure back onto Russia.
Exactly.
They look focused. They look relaxed.
And that can have to do with a good coach too. You know, knowing what your archers need to hear in this situation to be able to place good arrows on the target.
Yes. It was a good shot, good release. Unfortunately not a 10, but still a good score.
Yeah, now we're seeing some of the arrows are being placed on the left-hand side of the target, which couple things could be happening. Either the archers are compensating for the wind that was there before, maybe a little bit of overcompensation, or the wind could have changed in that direction and just be pushing them over there as well. So the flags do kind of look like they're blowing towards the left. A little bit quicker of a shot, still down the line, just a little bit under it, I believe.
At this stage, Russia could just play a reasonably safe game and still win the match.
Just play it safe and confident.
That opens the door slightly. It's always good if you're the opposing team and you see some red numbers coming up.
Yeah, kind of. You know, archery is a huge amount mental, and if you can get a little bit more confidence, you know, that's sometimes just enough to put you in the 10 and give you a little bit of an advantage. So now we have.
I must say the Russian team, what they do well is if one archer shoots an 8 or a red number, the other one usually comes back with a strong 10 or a good shot after that. So strong team.
Yeah,
right.
6.
Nice 10 to put in there on the last 3
Good finish,
arrows.
Ting-Ting, good finish.
They're managing their time well as well, so
yep, absolutely, and it doesn't put pressure on the last archer where they have to think, oh my god, you know, I have to put a really quick shot down there, because then sometimes that can throw you off your routine and not make the same shot you would have made in practice. But they definitely are putting these last 3 arrows,
using them well.
Yes.
Oh, good.
10.
Very nice finish. And sometimes, you know, even if you had a bad match leading up to that point, or
finish,
not necessarily bad, but just not as good as you would have hoped, finishing on a good note, you know, definitely helps for
Дядя, все.
just thinking, you know, you did put in a good effort and leaving the match happy.
Yeah, on a positive note.
So that one's actually very close to the
Чуть-чуть
line.
не задела.
Close to call that one.
Too close to call. That may have to be looked at. Spotters are calling it a 9, but
10, молодец!
6-1.
Даже давай точку ставь, четко.
so at this point the teammates may be saying just keep it yellow or just make a strong shot, and that's all we need. That's all they got.
That's
So
what they got. Russia won it. 4 solid points. Well done to them.
strong
Good shooting.
shooting, definitely.
I think if you look at the Russian scores, it's more in line with what they shot during the week. I think Chinese Taipei came down a little bit. Maybe the moment a little bit big for them.
Well done, ladies.
But still good shooting, a
It
good
was,
match.
yeah, still definitely good experience for all of the archers as well. You know, you can learn something from every situation, every match you go into.
It's always, you know, yesterday we had the privilege to help World Archery set up the test event here, our shot on the stage here. And it was good because the stage is built solid. Last year there was a little bit of movement.
A little bit of a wobble,
Yeah.
and that can definitely, you know, as an archer, being on those platforms before, you know, and such, we can definitely relate to how hard it can be to maintain proper footing, and you know, your entire shot revolves around, you know, how still you can stay and how balanced you can stay. Well, when the platform you're on is kind of wobbling a little bit, sometimes that's out of your control and you can't